Good morning. Good afternoon, good evening, whatever time you're listening to us. Hello, everyone. Justin and I are thrown off here. We're recording this at 4:15 on Sunday, following City's 2-1 win over Minnesota United FC. And it's been a ringer of a weekend for both of us. On the sporting side, we've been doing some bouncing around in different parts of Missouri and Kansas, doing some stuff around here. But I'm glad we could get together here and do this recap for you all, because I think we have something to celebrate. That last night was a good occasion for the squad, and I think it was a mental block, and I think we might have successfully hurdled it and maybe given ourselves some momentum heading into the season here, Justin. But any initial reactions? Listen, I know you were at the Mizzou game, so it's tough to catch a lot of this live, but you did go back and do the rewatch. What were your kind of thoughts as you watched that game back?
So actually I was keeping up with it at the Mizzou game, trying to stream it, but service and along with everything else at the Dome is not great. But I was a little nervous, obviously, going down early. Saw a lot of people on Twitter about the PK and all of that. And then the fact that we scored 2 goals and bringing everybody on, like the 6th or 58th or something like that, where we brought on the big boys. So it was good. I mean, I think my one-word summary for that win was gutsy. I think there was a lot of guys out there that, obviously, we'll talk about the rotation. A lot of guys that usually don't see minutes, and I would say it's definitely hard to get chemistry when you switch out 8 guys compared to what we just had on Wednesday, and that's what we did with this team, and it was a gutsy performance and needed for us. I know we talked about we've only had 3 points in the previous 4 games. Getting 3 points in that game alone was huge.
Yeah, gutsy. Hey, was anything being done at that Mizzou game at the Dome? Were they showing any clips or highlights at all? No, there was no live at all from them.
I think I'm going to go ahead and let you know that people that are watching Mizzou football are not usually watching City FC.
There's not much crossover.
Not a lot of crossover there. Yeah.
That's funny. But my word for this one, and it's loaded, but recapturing. I thought we recaptured our away form. I thought we recaptured the game. Just a lot of us righting the ship in this game. Obviously, our away form was pretty rough heading into it, and it was really important, in my opinion, and I'll defend this later on, to get out of that game with 3 points. And we did. So kudos to the team. Phenomenal result, especially in the fashion in which it happened. But Justin, let's hop into these highlights and lowlights here. But before we do, welcome to everyone on the live stream. We have not done this in a while. We need to get back to doing this as much as we can, because it's great to get people in the room. I already see a comment here from Aaron. Had the double TV set up for the watch party. That sounds sick. There were so many sports going on yesterday, so it was hard to really prioritize. But obviously, you got to have one of those reserved for the boys in City Red. But yeah, in City/Pink, City Red Pink. But welcome again to everyone in the live stream. If you're in here right now, whether that's Instagram, X, YouTube, throw us a like, throw a comment in the chat. Let us know what you want us to talk about. Have any questions? Last night, I don't think there was overly too much controversy, but would love to hear thoughts for this. Oh, muting Red Zone on this. I love it, Aaron. Thank you for the appreciate. I mean, muting Red Zone is a big deal. I don't take that lightly. So we definitely appreciate it here at Ball Watching. And if you're listening to this later on, do the same. Go down and throw us a comment, throw us a like, subscribe to the show on YouTube. And if you're doing it on your podcast domain, Apple, Spotify, Amazon, whatever your domain of choice is, go down and leave a rating, a review, and let us know, how you think that we're doing, or if you want to talk about some other stuff and some different topics. But let's get into some of the fun stuff here, Justin. There were plenty of highlights last night. I think the first one came before the game even started. And I say highlight. I think looking back on it, it was a highlight because it worked, and we got some minutes underneath some other guys' legs. But rotation, obviously, we talked about this probably gonna happen during the preview, and I think it was a heavily rotated team. I think 8 starters were swapped out. I think that was more than you and I had initially thought. I think I was thinking there'd be more rotation, and you kind of thought we might go back to our same 11 just to get some more consistency because we have a week-long break coming up here. But man, Brad went for it, and he went for it hard. And I'm not going to say that those guys are the ones that gave us the W, but they gave us, 60, 70, 80 minutes of hard work. And, Minnesota's isn't a team to look over. And our guys gave them a pretty strong, even game, I would say.
One thing I will say, Jake, I didn't realize that Tim Parker had a kid. On the announcement of the game, they said 48 hours ahead of time. No, like just recent, like 48 hours. I didn't know that was happening. So he was not going to play in this game.
No, so here's the story with that.
Like he had his kid way back when. Did they?
Yeah, no. I think they fluffed their lines. I don't think he didn't have another one.
I was about to say he just had a kid like 2 months ago.
Yeah,
I
no,
was so confused.
that's
And I
not.
understand how
Yeah.
yes, I'm just very confused. Did you hear that on the actual
I
stream?
did. I was laughing. I'm like, these guys don't know what they're talking about.
No, they did know. They said Nilsson was dealing with a strain, which I would agree. I think we're giving that groin a little bit of
Yeah.
time there, which is fine. But the Tim Parker thing threw me off. Yes, I knew we already had a kid, and I understand how biology works. You can't really do that in 2 months again. But that was weird.
Yeah, it was. It was. But we got straight up to it, into this game. I thought we saw some initial danger, and I don't think we struggle starting games at all. Starting games, I think, is one of our strong suits. We had some initial danger caused in the second minute. Nico slipping Stroud in. Stroud, when he plays wide right, I feel like loves that tailing inward run into the middle of the field, kind of off the shoulder of our striker. And in this case, this was Gioacchini last night. And I just don't feel like defenders track him very well. And he made a great run and was able to let loose on a left-footed shot, dragged it just wide. But it honestly looked like it had eyes for a goal right as it came off his boot. Berkey was active early on in the game as well with two, I would say, more tame type shots from Minnesota, but two good saves from Roman in the 4th and 6th minute. And in the 14th minute, I had my first note here, and I know you did the same thing, Justin, where Blum had some offensive highlights last night, and we'll get to the big one. But we saw he had his shooting boots on. Man, he brought those north to Minnesota, and he just took a rip on a bouncing ball and a half volley from 25 yards out, and it got blocked or deflected out for a corner. But I talked to myself. I was watching this by myself. Of course, I'm sitting in a Kansas Airbnb visiting my brother-in-law at KU, and I'm watching this on my laptop, and I said, if that was on goal, that might have found the back of the net. And it just felt like a little bit of foreshadowing because of what came after.
No, he had a couple of rips. I think that we'll talk. Obviously, he had the great shot for the goal, but he had a couple. Just the ball was coming out, and he was not afraid to let it rip. And a lot of times, I'll say he'll like sky them. He was feeling himself last night. But another highlight as we kind of work through the rest of the first half on the 20th minute. That's St. Clair. Might be the first time I've ever seen, Jake, where both goalies have yellow cards in the game. So St. Clair comes way out of his box onto the touchline to clear a ball, knocks it off the board, and was like, oh, shoot, I am so far away from the goal, kicks it down the line, gets a yellow card there because Nico's trying to get a quick throwback in, and we definitely would have scored that. He was so far out. And then on the 24th, I will say this was a great ball by John Bell over the top to Ostrak, takes it down over his head like a Jim Edmonds catch, but with his foot. Dribbles it into the middle, back heel to Celio. Celio gets a touch. He takes a rip. I think he tries to slot it near post. He had Nico and Stroud there, and they're both like, why don't you pass to me? If you're already making that run, I'm fine with Celio taking that rip there.
Yeah. And two things. One, I love the referees are now doing this whole, you can't kick the ball away anymore or else we're going to slap a yellow card on you. And I think they could call it even a little bit tighter because there still are some instances where, and by the way, let's be transparent about it. Our players do that too. 100%. It's part of the game. It's been going on for a long time now. I would love to see that cut out. It pisses me off so much. And I love to see St. Clair slap with the yellow on that one. And secondarily, Ostrak, I feel like he has those moments, and you can see the talent that he has on him and the creative ability because he can create chances like you saw last night. But I feel like in the games that he gets involved in, it's either too late in the game because he's being brought on as a late sub, or we're down, or we're up and we're just bringing some fresh legs on, or he gets to start in a game like this where like we just don't have the team around him. It's usually a rotated team where I don't feel like he's surrounded with the right players that bring the best out of him consistently. So unfortunately, I feel like we just keep getting to this rut with him. But I really would like to see an active, a longer run of games for him and the team because you can see his ability. It's just not consistent enough how things are going right now. But before we get out of the first half, Justin, just some general things. Like I said, Stroud was finding some dangerous spaces last night in behind the striker, getting some dangerous look. Berkey looked super calm and composed, making some steady saves. Nothing crazy, but close range, keeping it near to him on any rebounds. And then Blum, and I saw Jack Reinberg threw this in the YouTube chat here live in the room. Welcome, Jack, and thanks for being here. Great call. Yeah, Blum, I feel like for us has kind of been the pinata of recently. He's a big name. We know how important he is to the team, but he hasn't been himself. And to see him get in this 11-1, I was kind of like, why is he playing? Because we've seen him kind of take some nicks recently in some past games, and to see him get this 90 and to play like he did both defensively and offensively, he had an exceptional night. I think my favorite performance I've seen from him in a City jersey. So I mean, I want to give him all of his flowers because he was exceptional, and that started way on early in the first half.
Yeah, I would say that. And did you see? I think I was going to hold on to it until we got to the actual goal itself from Blum, but I loved there was a quote from Tom Timmerton. He said, "His first goal as a professional in South Africa or America," and Blum goes, "I think it's a miracle, to be quite honest." So he knows that he's not like our offensive guy. He's the guy that stands there and like absolutely keeps this out of the way of all of our defenders and helps save Roman Bricky from stuff. But overall, I thought he had an incredible game. The first two highlights that I had in the first half, the second half, were Indy. Indy had a great free kick into the box for Nico in the 51st, and he just put the header just wide. And then 3 minutes later, had another great service on a corner on an outswinger, and put it right on Hebert's head. He was falling back to get to it, but put it like right at the top of the six. So I thought Indy had two great plays there, and then you could feel it coming. The big dogs come in. Klaus, Leuven, and AZ. What are you doing, Jake, if you're the other team and you see those three coming in off the bench?
Well, I feel like, and I don't know if I read this somewhere in an article or if this was, I was perusing around Minnesota's Twitter last night as well, but it kind of felt like, oh crap, the parents are home and we are screwed, because I mean, those three coming off the bench have to scare the daylights out of any defense, because the level of quality they bring to the team is just out of this world. I mean, and you saw the impact instantly. Klaus is forcing issues on their back line. Leuven coming in, dictating the game. Aziel Jackson, again, wasn't his best night on this past Wednesday against LAFC. Got subbed off a little bit early on after an hour. He brought his chance creating shoes as well. This guy was dangerous from the get-go. And I was so glad to see him regain that form. Not that one game makes you lose that form, but to see him, that was just a quick little speed bump. We're back on it. It was amazing. And I'm sure these Minnesota players just felt it right away.
They had to. I mean, it was building as we came up, even before those guys got in there. It was building a little bit. And we talked about it. There was a great build up in the back. Celio finds AZ for a shot. And then the 64th minute. So what was that? 6 minutes after the boys were on there, which we had a couple chances and high press there. We got the goal. So Leuven steers the ball white to Jake Nerwinski, who drops a great ball into the six, where Nico draws a guy to the front post, which clears up Klaus that was streaking through for a great header into the far post. Nothing that St. Clair could have done there. Klaus was getting up for that and not losing it. I will say, so you have here immediate impact from the subs. But then Klaus was so wide before that ball was played in that the ball from Leuven to Nerwinski went right by Klaus. Like he told him to leave it. And then he just immediately started streaking, which I thought was a great run from him. And then the announcers obviously mentioned Klaus then, which I like these stats. He had 9 goal contributions, a goal or assist in his first 10 games. Then we had the injury. Now he has 3 goals in his last 4 games. The man is back.
He is, and a good comment on the Klaus. He was dropping deep to receive that ball from Lou. I think he just wanted to get on the ball. You could tell how hungry he was last night. And yeah, Nerwinski calls him off of it, literally tells him to run a post route, and he runs it into the box, and Nerwinski hits him on the fly on a dime. I mean, again, Jake Nerwinski, when we get to player ratings, I think another sneaky strong game from him. And for me, he's got to be knocking on the door for Akil Watts. I think at this point, depending on the fixture, of course, I think for me, he might have reclaimed the starting right back spot last night. You know, it's been an up and down season for him, but I think these last 2 games have been phenomenal when he's gotten minutes.
I feel like we were harsh on him for a while, but and I think it was deservingly so. And that's just because it was still early on and there was a lot of moving parts. And Akil Watts also makes a great argument as well. But I would say Nerwinski gives us a little bit more defensive mindedness there. I would say Akil gets up better, but Nerwinski can obviously still lay in great balls. And I just think he's a little bit stronger of a right back when it comes to defense. So it's going to be a tough decision once we get down to it. Obviously, I think we're going to have a full regular starting 11 for Kansas City next weekend. So I'm excited to see what we kind of put together there. But let's get back into the highlights. In the 66, Blum forces a giveaway in the final third. Klaus is a screamer. Absolute, just he wants to get on the ball. And they talked about it like the announcer even said he tattooed that ball. And it was a good save. And then actually Blum almost tries to get another volley there and he sends it over. But you could feel the energy building. And then 6 minutes later, in the 72nd, we get another goal. AZ to Blum. So much composure by him. It's coming from his left side. Takes a touch, settles it, moves it to his right foot with his right, and then just curls it into the top bin, which I agree with him. It's not a miracle, but I have not seen a Blum shot like that all year.
No, and in fact, I feel like most Blum shots are nowhere near the target. And he'd be the first one to say that, because his other comment that I read last night was that I think he was asked what his teammates would think about that goal that he just scored and what he thinks they thought. He's like, well, they're used to see me either hit the bar or hit it into the parking lots. So I'm sure they were pretty excited last night. So I mean, I jumped up when I saw that. It was phenomenal. What a reward for him to cap off a great performance and to finally get on the board. Because you know what? I do feel like he has goals in his game. He's not just a pure defensive midfielder. I think he has more to offer going forward. And what more could you ask for from a guy like that? So his first career goal in the MLS, first career goal for us. So kudos and flowers to Njoblu Blum. But otherwise, I'll round up the highlights here. I thought Josh Yarrow had a pretty strong game as well. He had his hands full at times, especially with Timu Pukki giving some challenges later on in the game. He got a little chip over him, and Yarrow was able to recover in time and clear that ball. Berkey was quick off his line to claim a couple through balls. He was playing, I think, pretty well last night. And then really, Celio had some great defending forward late on the game. Like, I loved how we didn't look that tired last night later on, which I feel like kind of kills us sometimes. And it was great to see him pressing, drawing a yellow card, forcing errors out of our opponents, and not letting them off the hook and letting them just come down the field and throw, cross after cross into the box. And I think Markinek also did the similar. So it was great to see that pressure that was just relentless throughout the game. So I was very excited about that.
Yeah, and kind of after all of the highlights that we talked about, how did it look on a stats side of things? The one thing I still just don't get with this, Jake, and I have a low light on it too, is we just commit so many fouls. And I don't know, and I don't think that not all of them are fouls, but I just feel like there was 29 again last night. So it's a foul every 3 minutes almost in these games, and it just seems very choppy. I will say, so obviously we didn't have the highest possession. We had 44%, always fine with that. Our XG was 1.49 versus their 2.29. I think their 2.29 seems a little high in my opinion. They had 18 total shots. In 5 corners. We had 16 shots in 3 corners. They said that we had 2 big chances and we missed them both. They had 5, which I think it also seems high, and they missed 4 of them. Obviously, the PK was the one they scored. But overall, what were your thoughts on just the stats on this? I know we got outpassed as we usually do. Yeah. But otherwise, it looks like we were pretty much below everything on this.
Take the PK out of their game, and that drops them by a third on their XG. I mean, that PK was, I think, 0.7 or something.
Yeah,
so I think that
is PK.
Yeah, so that brings it much more down to say more of a balance. But the fouls for me are, 1, a product of the system, and 2, a product of some mental breakdowns, in my opinion. I think we do take some needless fouls, especially in some needless areas of the field, where I just would like for us to have a little bit more composure and wherewithal as to where we are in the field. And if we really need to slide for that challenge sometimes, because sometimes it's just fine just to contain and usher them out wide or into spaces where you're okay to let them have the ball. So I think I don't love the foul count, but I do love how hard we play and how aggressive we are on the ball. And I think it causes a lot of our opportunities. So I wouldn't change it either. I would change the needless fouls.
I would agree with that. I think we do have some good fouls in there. I just feel like we foul, and I can pull that up as we kind of talk through the lowlights as well. But did we lead the league in fouls? I know we talked about maybe like 3 games ago. We have to skyrocket.
I'll pull it up. While you open up the highlights for us, the lowlights for us.
So getting into the lowlights, and there were a decent amount actually. And I mean, it was a sloppy game with the rain and everything up there. But let's get into it. The 10th minute. I know there was a ball down the right side with Bell. He can't stay with Pukki, who then sends a ball across to Songbin. Who luckily skies it over. I will say Nowinski was breathing down his neck, so probably made him a little nervous there, but was an open shot. And then my second low light was from the 16th minute to the 23rd minute, there were 10 fouls. That is 7 minutes, 10 fouls. It's just, and that's not just us, it's them as well. It just seemed very choppy last night. And I feel like that's been a theme consistently. And then another low light that I have in the 29th, Songbin. That whole high foot from Yarrow, I think it was a great play by him. And then Songbin goes down, holds his face. The ball went off his nose, not his foot, and it wasn't a cleat. Yeah. So I think that was a pretty weak yellow in the ref's mind.
Going back to your point, Justin, we do lead the league in fouls. We have 451 Red Bulls who play an eerily similar style of play, of course. I think now that's probably officially rebranded as St. Louis style of play and not Red Bull, but 438 for them, and they're the next nearest to us. So going down the line, the lowest amount of fouls is 269. So we have basically 200 more than Toronto. Which is absurd. But I do think we use it to our advantage a lot of the time. I agree with everything you just said in the lowlights there. I also kind of feel like last night for us, again, I talked about some of the needless, aggression in certain circumstances. I thought the weather really made it tough last night on the boys, both sides. It was just, you like a good wet surface, but not like there's a line, right? There's like a sloppy wet surface where, people are slipping and things look really just kind of, crazy and sometimes air prone for certain defenders. I thought when our press got broken down, when we were playing with Ostrak last night at the 10, especially in the first half, once he stepped up to join that press and they got around us, which seemed to happen frequently, they were on the break. They were super dangerous on the wings. And I think it was a product of Stroud and Pompeu, who are playing left and right respectively, were so far pinched up into that press that when they did beat that press, we had no width in defense. I think our fullbacks were kind of tucked in. I mean, think about Hebert and Nerwinski playing last night. Those two guys, I'm sorry, no, Watts started last night. Think about those two guys. It's not, I think the way they're playing. Oh, no, sorry. No, Nerwinski did start last night. It was Hebert, Nerwinski. They're not the ones that are flying up the field. They're kind of tucking in with Yarrow and Bell in this situation. So I think a lot of the space was given to Minnesota on the wings, and they just kept exploiting that. A little 1-2, a little, one-on-one take on, and they were taking the ball to the end line and crossing it in. And there was a lot of nervy moments last night. It was like whenever either one of Nerwinski or Hebert stepped up in the first half, specifically I'm talking about, it wasn't being accounted for in our midfield. And so a lot of space was being left in behind. And so we just constantly gave them the flanks. And you know what? Maybe that was part of the game plan because it obviously worked out for us. But there was a lot of moments there where I was really worried about how stretched we were.
Yeah, I will say a part of that is, Jake, is just a lack of chemistry as well. If someone's stepping and you have to know where the other guy's going to be, and this was a completely rotated lineup, so I don't see that continuing for us, but I really hope not at least. And then as we hop into the second half, quickest low light, 46th minute was their goal. So I want to get your thoughts on this because I watched the replay a couple times, and then I also saw Tom Timmerman. So quickly, the goal for anybody that wasn't able to see it, Berkey gets a yellow card, basically, and leads to a PK. There was a ball that gets put in. He tries to catch it, slips out of his hands. I think it was one of those things where like NFL wide receivers already looking for something downfield, like to see where the guys are, and he just doesn't corral it. It's also wet. So you say there was a soft goal. There wasn't enough, or you say wasn't enough contact to impede Dotson from a clear goal scoring opportunity. Tom Timmerman had a good tweet. He said, by the way, if you're not watching MLS 360 on Apple TV, their rules expert felt that there was the right call. The right call would have been to give Berkey a red card for denying a goal scoring opportunity on the PK play. So what he did was once it slipped, he did kind of wrap his arm around Dotson and pull him down. I think there was a little bit of embellishment there, but I do think that Dotson probably would have finished that if he didn't. So I'm happy they didn't give him a red card, at least for that. That would have been awful.
Yeah. I didn't even think about the red card angle at first. Yeah. I mean, it depends on like, do we really think that Dotson would have recovered that ball or would it have skipped out of play or would a defender come back in time? It's like, where does Berkey go as well? Like, can Dotson just like skip around him really quick and go? Because otherwise, if Berkey coughs that up and he doesn't grab him, but he holds his ground, is that a penalty? Like, where is he supposed to go? There's a lot I could say there. I do think they get it right in terms of giving Minnesota a PK. I think it is a soft one to give up for Berkey, unfortunately. And again, that's one he'll want to have back and probably makes him even hungrier heading into this. But man, we got to be relieved. I saw Aaron put a comment here earlier on. Berkey not getting that red card, that would have flipped the game on us, would have been a huge miss because then he's out the next game as well, right, against KC, which would have been a huge, huge bummer. So I don't think Minnesota probably feels too hard done that was a yellow and a PK versus a red and a PK. I didn't even really hear it talked about on the broadcast like that, but that's an interesting angle. I wonder, maybe we can bring that up too with George Gansner, Justin. We're working on having him this week to kind of just walk us through some of the shambolicness, at least perceived shambolicness of some of these calls that we've seen go against us recently, and just kind of give us some more education around these, because it sucks to just be like mad without like knowing really what the rules are and what's being done in the background. So we're going to try.
And I know I've said a lot of Tom Timmerman tweets, but I thought he was on fire last night. He had another one, a quote from Nerwinski. Nerwinski on the team's attitude after falling behind. He said, the amount of times that Berkey has had our back throughout the season, the amount of points he saved us, it was time to have our back for him. So the team knew, like, hey, that was one on Berkey, but that's one that they absolutely, once the big boys came on, they're like, we're not going to let this turn into on the road loss
for sure
for all of that. And I was very happy to see us bounce back.
I love that. I didn't even see that quote. I love that. Like, that is the epitome of teamwork. And that's this attitude. I feel like this culture we're building in this team, the fact that they didn't let that determine our result last night, and they gave him the goal support, and they gave him, they rallied behind him. So I really do like that. Let's round out lowlights here, Justin, before we go on to final kind of team ratings here. I thought again there were some dumb fouls. Sealy made a dumb foul last night with Minnesota kind of knocking on the door in the 68th minute. AZ, I just want to see more consistency from him on the goal scoring, or at least the end product in his game. I think he's got that pass. He's got goal scoring in his game, but sometimes I feel like the moment can be a little bit too big. And I feel like that's also very normal for a guy that's developing, that's his age. But he had a great opportunity in the 81st last night just to put this game on ice. And he shot this one pretty far over. I thought some of our late game clearances were just kind of lazy or just not good enough. Which caused a lot of nervy moments in the 18. And I'm freaking out. I'm gripping my seat as hard as I can over here, and I'm just asking for someone to head this ball more than 5 yards, or not straight up in the air in our box. And I feel like that was a little bit too much to ask sometimes, and we've done that late in the game. Just we're not helping ourselves sometimes, and clearances are so important. Just get this ball as far as you possibly can. I don't care if you just kick it straight out of bounds and is into the stands, but kick it into the second or 300 section. Like, just get it out.
Yes, I completely agree. And I will say the one thing, I don't know if it's legs with those guys, but I feel like we do get a little lazy in our clearances, especially late in the game with headers or kicking it. So, and that's into our last two lowlights there. Marcanic had a bad foul at the edge of the box for a free kick in the 88th, and you had no need to go down there. He slid and took the guy down. He won the ball first. It was about his follow through. I'm okay with him going down, but I was not okay on why we were even in that situation. It was because he took a bad touch. And I think that was a part of his legs. Like, dude, settle it and clear it. Like you said, he tried to take a bigger touch, and then he's like, oh, it's too far away. And he realizes it's late and gets down to the ground, takes the foul. Never good to have in the 88th. We get out of that. And then the 90th +4, that there was a BS call on fouls. He was fired up. And I was like, oh, I mean, once I saw it, when I was rewatching it this morning, I'm like, oh, I wonder where this free kick was when I was rereading your notes before I saw the game. And it was at the half line. I'm like, oh, we're fine. But St. Clair absolutely heaved this thing into the 18 box.
Great ball.
They put the header into the 6, and then Nerwinski heads it. It was a good clearance by Nerwinski there, but it goes off of Yarrow and out of bounds, just barely missing the goal. I'm surprised that the referee did not allow for a corner there as well. It was already like the 90th +5 or 6. So, and we only had 4 minutes a minimum, but I was very happy I would have cried if we would have actually let that.
There would have been protests in St. Louis. That foul was so soft from, so soft. And oh my God. And we also would have had to fault ourselves for not clearing that ball. But they got up and could. They did not go away. Minnesota did not go away last night, but we saw it out. Didn't allow any of those late goals. It was great. So generally, let's wrap this segment up here, Justin. That was our first away win since July 8th. Yeah, you heard that right. July 8th. It's nuts. We snapped our 4-game winless streak, just general home and away. And, to come down, I think is, to come back from a 1-0 deficit on a bad PK, just like one that just takes the wind out of your sails, that was ruthless of this team. I mean, I put on Twitter last night, we just stole their lunch money and we just ran with it. That had to have felt like a gut punch for Minnesota, who just lost in a similar fashion to LA Galaxy at the middle of the week. The subs were the difference in this game. I said that from the beginning of the game. They were, and at halftime, that was always going to be the case. And Yarrow and Blum were exceptional last night. And I also, again, got to say my same thing for Jake. So let's go into player ratings. But Justin, before we do, a word from our sponsors.
A word from our sponsors. I have a couple quick plugs, Jake. If you're in here live on YouTube or Instagram or whatever, not only smash our like button and subscribe, but City 2 is playing right now. And so everybody needs to watch that. It's on Apple TV. You can watch it there. It's 0-0 in the 37th. They're playing Sporting Kansas City. Tom Timmerman had another great tweet that I believe whoever wins this game will have they will have the home field and they will likely play each other. So these guys are probably going to play each other. So this is decision day to see where we land. And if we win this game, we will have home field advantage when we play Sporting Kansas City on September 29th, likely KC. It depends on who people pick, but we would be the 4th spot if we win, and they would be the 5th and 4th or 5th. So the 2nd and 3rd are going to take the 6th and 7th teams, and no one wants to play us right now. And so unless Sporting Kansas City gets picked, but go watch that game right now. Those boys have been fighting tooth and nail to be there right now. But specifically from our sponsors, Jake, you already know Soul Juice, incredible. We're doing an interview with Luis this week. We'll get that posted later this week or early next. Go to souljuice.com, get it for 20% off. I got a DM from a couple people. They were at Sam's. Luis was in Sam's in Wentzville, the grocery store. You can get it there. You can get it at Deerbergs. You can get it online, 20% off using the code ballwatching at souljuice.com. And the pitch. I need to get down there today for football. I said I was going to, and I've been kind of lazy and just rewatching this game and been on my couch. But we were down there for the pregame for the Mizzou game. It was an electric atmosphere for college football day. I heard that the Sundays for NFL have been incredible. So get to the pitch, get some food, get some frozen Irish coffees.
Yeah, I love it. I could have used some soldiers yesterday, by the way. I mean, it was baking in Lawrence, Kansas. I mean, you can see I'm red. It was like, I was not wearing anything. I was just sweating my tail off. I was not expecting that on a September day. But I also wasn't expecting some of the performances last night that we got from some of our guys here from player ratings. Starting with Berkey. Jack had a comment here. Could MLS rescind Berkey's yellow and give him the red? No, I don't. I've never seen that done. I do not think that is. I think they could retroactively fine him or something like that, but nothing from a sporting perspective. From at least from what I know, I'm not a rules expert, but that is never something that I've seen before. I think Berkey, unfortunately, you do have to be a little bit harsher on him last night. I'm going to probably go a high C for him. I mean, he was the sole reason for that goal. And I think he owns that, and I'm not worried about him going forward at all. I think the other elements of his game were fine. It was a tough night for a goalkeeper last night. That ball being as slick as it was, it's tough because your gloves get wet and you lose the grip on that. And that's probably a lot of why he made that mistake the way he did. But otherwise, I thought he was okay. Back line, I thought our fullbacks, Hebert and Nowinski, were probably A performers for us. It was good to see minutes from both of them. Again, I think Jake Nowinski has earned his spot as a starting right back for us moving forward. And I think Josh Yarrow is the first center back off the bench. If someone goes down, someone has an injury, someone's not up to the par, Nilsson or Parker, I think he is first to come in. And I thought Bell was fine last night. But I would give Josh Yarrow an A. And I think his leadership back there too, his speed in recovery tackles, it's just something that we don't have necessarily always in the back line. So it's great to see him just pull that out. Not great to see him sprinting back toward our goal, but he's got it. And he's able to make those challenges and very confidently. So I do appreciate Josh a lot.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised when you said Berkey at like a high C, but I guess I will go there because if we lost that game 1-0, I'd be pretty upset. And he made 4 other saves, but none of them were difficult. We had no highlights from him, and we also had no highlights from him from his with his feet either. So I wasn't overly impressed with him there. Backline as a whole, I would say I'll give them a B+ in total, but I Josh, I would say played the best out of those guys within Nowinski. I would give them maybe like an A- and then give Hebert and Bell B's flat, and that's where you get your B+.
There we go.
Yeah. And then I'll move us up into the midfield. Indy Vasilev and Blum, I would say Indy. I'll give him an A- as well, just because I thought he had great services. I think he created a couple chances for us. Overall, not a whole lot of highlights or lowlights from him, and he came off in the 58th, which is probably why. And then obviously once you put Leuven in there, it's hard not to think about Leuven at that time. Blum, absolute A+. I thought he played well, not only for the goal, but other rips that we talked about in chances. He's shutting the teams down. And I will say, when you look at those guys, those 6 guys in front of Berkey, overall, I'd give them all an A-. I know that's probably more attributable to Blum and Indy than it is the back line, but only letting up 1 goal in a PK on the road in a wet atmosphere like this, when we have not been playing well on the road, as we talked about, was pretty good, in my opinion.
Moving up, I agree with you. Moving up to it was a 4-2-3-1, so the 3. So Celio, Ostrak, and Stroud. Stroud and Ostrak both were yanked after 60 minutes. Not much of their fault, I would say, just to put in Leuven and Klaus and AZ at the time. So I wouldn't say it was much of their fault, as in like they were being pulled for reasons that they had on the field. I do think at times they struggled to find the game. I think there was dangerous moments from both of them. And I still don't think they're moving in the pecking order, or I think it was very neutral performance for these guys. So I'm going to give them a flat B. Whereas Celio, again, strong performance. He shows that hunger every minute he gets, and he's capable of producing on his own as well. Similar to Adeniran, I would say. He's a guy that can run back, poke the ball off someone's foot, and then take it back 40 yards on the dribble. And he can also combine with teammates well. So I think Celio is, again, probably one of your first guys off the bench. For me at this point, I don't think he's knocking on the door of a starting 11 spot, but he does show great quality when he gets those minutes.
Yep, absolute spark plug. And I agree. I don't think Ostrak or Stroud really did anything overly impressive, but nothing bad either. Just an okay 60 minutes out of them. Nico up top, I would say I'd probably give him I'll give him a B+. I'm not going to give him in the A range. Didn't score, didn't get on the sheet there, but I thought he had an okay game. Played 83 minutes, almost a full game there, but not a whole lot of highlights and lowlights. I would say it's once he came in, it's obviously once you play with Klaus, they had that connection, and Nico's able to move out wide or streak across that creates more space. And those are things that aren't going to hit the stat sheet, but I'll just give him a B+ overall, maybe a B flat.
All right, so Justin, really quick, we had a question in here from Jack around what is our best starting 11 going into the playoffs, assuming full health right now. After seeing what we saw last night, I obviously still think it's Berkey. I would go back to Markinick on the left. I would do Parker Nilsson in the middle, and I would go Jake Nerwinski on the right. How you feeling so far?
I agree.
Good. Okay, I'm going Blum Leuven as your two midfielders. I'm going AZ ahead of them, and then this is where it starts to get tough. I would honestly go Stroud on the left, and I would go on the right. Man, this is just where it gets tough. A healthy Alm would be great, but I don't think that's going to be happening anytime soon. So I'm going to have to go. Oh man, I don't know. I would even think about doing like an Ostrak on the right, but I don't think he just walks right into our starting best 11. So what would you do there on the right?
I'm going Stroud left. I'm going Nico middle. Give me that Nico Klaus connection. I've been wanting it all season. We started off right. And no, I'm not even going AZ on the right. I'm going Indy on the right. I want that cut in. I'm going lefty cut in and righty cut in from Stroud on opposite sides. Stroud's cutting in from the left side with his right. Indy cutting on the left side with his left. On the right side with his left. And then Joao up top with Nico underneath.
I like that. And you have Adeniran coming off the bench.
With AZ and Celio. Like if you bring, like I know that we talked about, like I know, think about what a spark plug of a trio if those guys come in. Like that's just sheer speed and creativity out of those guys.
So realistically though, I don't think that would ever be what Carnell rolls with. I like it as an idea. I would hope for it to be tested. I don't think AZ is coming out of this lineup. If tomorrow's a playoffs, I think he's starting this game. Like
I mean, we're gonna once we get in and we'll talk about it. Well, let's do a good deep dive into Sporting Kansas City because that's a full week's rest at home in a game that we love. And I know we can rotate if we want to, but why don't we just put this whole thing to bed, lock up first place, and then get out of here with 100%. It. So I would say that we should play our best starting 11 against Sporting KC. Let's see once we do that preview. Predictions and bets. Jake, you had a 1-0 dub. I had a 2-0 dub. I guess I did a little better there. We did let up a goal, but I will say the PK, whatever. Our bets, you had City to score in the second half, minus 135, cash that. Draw no bet, plus 180, cash that. I had City double chance, minus 110, cash that. City over 1.5, plus 165, cash that. So we did pretty good last night from that sense. And then where do we go from here? And that'll lead us into magic number as well. Jake, where do we go?
We are 8 points clear at the top of the Western Conference right now, though. LAFC and Seattle, who are both second and third respectively, both have a game in hand and they're level on points. So we have great momentum heading into the Sporting Kansas City rubber match at City Park. It's going to be a night to remember at City Park. And I am so glad we have exercised the point on the road demons. I was going back and forth on social media with people last night. And I made a comment around, I would almost rather lose this match, this is at halftime, than draw again. And I did not say almost, and I should have said almost, but of course I would rather have a point than 0 points. But I think my point in this is that I'm less worried about just seeding and where we end up on everything. I'm more worried about, are we rolling into the playoffs looking dangerous, feeling dangerous as a team? Not just like, oh, we have 55 points and that's awesome. I want our guys to be confident that they can go on the road and clinch a series. And if we don't somehow get the first seed, I want them to be confident that if we have to play LAFC, or if we go and have to somehow get to the MLS Cup, God forbid, and go and have to beat Cincy, that we know that we can do that. And we had not shown that recently. So that is what I wanted to see last night. And these guys gave that. So I was really, really happy about that. Larger picture, as an expansion team, we have tied the record for the most wins in an inaugural season, tying LAFC's 2018 record with 16. So we only need a couple more points here to actually go out. I think 4 more to tie their record for the most points in an expansion season. Not worried about these records. Again, I'm worried about how we look and how we feel as a team. But Justin, go to the numbers. Tell us how we're looking from a magic number perspective heading into Sporting.
I'm going to go one more. I'm going to go 2 more Tom Timmerman tweets too as I get this pulled up, Jake. You see that one that I have in there? So What do we need? 4 points to absolutely lock up first overall spot. I still think it's less than that. That's just math-wise and assuming. And then so if we beat Sporting Kansas City, then that means that Seattle or LAFC would have to win out to beat us. So that's why this is why our magic number is not going to always be spot on with their actual true numbers, because they're assuming everybody wins out, and that's just not going to happen. So, and the other thing I'll say, Jake, now 8 of our last 12 goals have came in after the 70th minute. We are turning into that team that we hate to play against, and I absolutely love it. So another great stat from Tom there. So looking at our magic number, for anybody that cannot see this visually, we have 53 points, 3 games remaining. These are great numbers now, Jake. I can see you kind of smiling. Magic number for the round 1 with home field. So basically getting into the top 4, we've clinched it per our calculation of if everybody holds their same points per match for the rest of the season, which are only 3 or 4 games left. We have -3 points for that. Magic number round 1 without home field. So the 7th through the 5th spot, -6 points. We locked that up. And magic number for the wild card, -7. That's already a given for me. And I think that's actually absolutely a given for them as well, now that we're still the only team, I believe, in the West that has clinched. So looking at our upcoming game, Sporting Kansas City at home next Saturday. They are 10th in the West. So technically not in a playoff spot right now. Vancouver, but very much looking for it because a 9 would give them in the wild card. So Vancouver on October 4th, that's an away match. They're 7th in the West with 41 points after losing last night. And then Seattle on 10/21. So we have a 2-week break there, 2.5 weeks. Seattle's now 3rd behind LAFC. They're tied in points with 45, but I think they have some kind of whatever the tiebreaker is there. But it's going to be a tough stretch still coming in, knowing that we have a rubber match with Sporting Kansas City and then 2 teams that are sitting in playoff positions right now. So I'm excited to see where we're going from here.
And for anyone that's coming in late on these calculations, the negative numbers means we've clinched that many points into that position. So we've clinched 3 points into, clinching home field for round 1. So we're in a great spot. I think all that's left for us is to keep up momentum, keep up form, and finalize our best 11 and give them shared minutes together and keep pressing the gas pedal. We cannot just let off and finish the season, rest a bunch of guys. I think we've got to keep continuing to challenge and find our best form and find our best 11 and lock in our starting for who's going to be that, game 1. I mean, we're getting closer and closer to playoffs, and we only have a couple games left here. So starts at home against the S-Words coming in town. It's going to be a great fixture on the weekend, and we'll be back with you all for a full preview of that match. And I'll do a little more deeper dive. We'll talk about it for the starting 11, who we think that should be. But Justin, any parting words before we cut everyone loose for the week? And we'll be back with you all on Wednesday, like I said.
No, I'm excited. Now we got a full break for these guys. Hopefully Nelson can get fully healthy. And anybody else that's been dealing with any of the knocks, enjoy your week. It's going to be a great week for City fans next Saturday at home, where Sporting Kansas City is going to be electric. We'll be hitting you guys with that preview later this week. So excited to have it.
Awesome. All right, everyone, take care, and we'll see you in a couple days. All for City.
All for City.